So do you think Bitcoin is going to go lower? I'm going to talk in this video today about the possibility of it going lower, but also what could happen for it to go bullish again and what I look for to be a bull or a bear. You know, I have been a bit of a bear recently, but for all good reasons, and I will explain in this video why I am looking at certain things. So I will probably look at the total market cap, maybe the dominant share, obviously BTC, some altcoins as well. So I think we should just start, shouldn't we? Let's just go. Forget the intro. Let's crack on. Right. It's important to note a few things here with Bitcoin. One, we've had a bit of a bearish divergence on the RSI. Not the greatest in terms of price action, but definitely see it on the RSI here. But for me, I still think we're in a downtrend, and a lot of people do disagree with me on this one, which is fine. But I just do not feel that we have a concrete market direction yet. And I believe that because when you look at the structure, we haven't created a level. And I know people do message me and go, well, we created a lower high here, a high low, sorry, here. But it wasn't really much of a, it was a bit of a wishy-washy kind of run up, then a little bit of a pullback, then a blast off. But for me, the level to take overall would be 46k to get us out of this proper downtrend where we have had a rejection from this past level here. And then obviously the meatiness of that level of support and obviously resistance. It's showing that because we have rejected off it, right? So the fundamentals of a trend, and I mentioned it in yesterday's video, you need to wait for it to kind of get above a certain level of a previous rejection and get through it. But realistically, we're not through that yet, and we could be forming something a little bit more naughty, really. Now, what have we got here? We've had a high, we've had a low, lower high, lower low. That is not good. So that is probably me thinking, well, maybe this is just more bearish than we think. And we've got to look at critical kind of levels here. Fibonacci on this level from the low to high is telling us we are below the 382. It's probably now acting as resistance. We've got this level in between here, which is kind of like a little level of demand, which is where I plonked from past levels of structure. And then you got the obvious, the 618 level, the 37,000 or 38,000, give or take. I do feel we will probably come down to that level potentially. But as I say, for this to be bullish, it has to react very, very soon. It has to react from this point. And for me to turn bullish, and as I mentioned at the start of this video, we need to get beyond this level. We need to just go through this point and we need to go beyond here. Then we need to get a level of support above this zone and it has to hold. Therefore, I will be more bullish because when you reinvent that level alone from this previous range, we've actually broken out through a key concrete level of structure and a downtrend, and we could be going and forming an uptrend, which will make sense. Anyways, moving on, we need to look at a few other things. Now, as I say, if I am going to turn bullish, there's a few little situations that I got to worry about. Where will we go? Now, let's look at the bullish situation first. If I remove that and remove some of the noise, if this is the bottom and we are going to turn bullish, we've got to look at the fact of the overall dump to this level. Where can we go? Well, I've had my eyes, and I've mentioned this before in previous videos, 55 to 58k kind of levels. Basically, this region here is probably the area, right? If you can see that, it will make absolute obvious sense, in my opinion, that we will probably hit that level and it could look very much interesting. The reason why I say that is because we could be forming something a little bit worse than you want to probably hear. It's potentially a head and shoulders where we are looking at that kind of level and this kind of level around here where it could be an absolute monster head and shoulders, which could be bad, obviously, and that could create a lower high, but therefore still opportunity could be made to make some profit to that upside. However, let's look at the worst case scenario where actually we do not form that kind of level and we are looking at a nice correction up, which we already have done. Could we go down to 23k? Well, that is probably, in my opinion, pretty far-fetched. It's not impossible, don't get me wrong, but ultimately it's probably unlikely, which could be interesting. So for me, I would always earmark the fact of this level here, and I do apologize if it does look a little bit dark on the screen. I am going to change those so it looks a bit more lighter. We could be looking at that level there, where we could be looking right back at 30k. So obviously that's a doom and gloom out the way. But ultimately we are, if you look at the 3-day time frame, we're still below this EMA, which is important. Again, if we're going to look at the weeklies, which is by far the most important time frame to really consider, those weeklies look terrible. And we can see that we've had pulled up, we've had a fake out, we've pulled down, we've pulled up, we've had a fake out, we're pulling down right now. So maybe we could be looking at that situation there alone, right? But let's look at the fact of what has already happened as well. So instead of looking at the overall picture, just look at this previous level here where we've had this rejection, we've pulled right the way up to the 618. This is what I think will happen personally. So this is kind of the level, and I mentioned before this level here, but you've also got this extension level here, 27,000, also 21,000 for the 618. I think it's unlikely, but it's definitely not impossible. We went up to the 618 level on this impulse, and we are rejecting. If we do not form, and as I say, and this is all the caveat around this, if we do not form an obvious higher low on the weekly, we're going to see an obvious lower low, which is going to come and hit us pretty hard around this point. So we've got to hold the support around this 37, 36, 38, give or take around that level there, which will give us a nice little formation of a high low. So let's look at the total market cap, because I think this is also massively important. Now, I've earmarked this on my charts for a while. You can probably see that a little bit better now with the grey. But fundamental wise, I do think we are going to go lower if obviously Bitcoin's going to dump. It's kind of the same sort of pattern we're looking at, the same sort of structure of candles, which looks pretty ugly. But at the same time, though, we've got to look at certain things. So let's just remove that fib here. And again, we could be looking at a similar sort of situation where we are literally with, well, nearly the 618 level. But for me, I think that 1.2 trillion is probably going to be the level where we could be getting some interest, certainly if altcoins dump. Now, Bitcoin may not dump as severely, but people might get impatient with altcoins, and there's rug pulls and all kinds of stuff like that, which we need to obviously address and look at and consider. Could get quite ugly, but not all doom and gloom, because this isn't too bad realistically in the grand scheme of things, because I do think that we have strong levels around here where we may well get some alt demand, and we are always talking alt season imminent, even, or whatever you want to describe it as. You know, for me, there's always a lot of hope around altcoins, especially at low prices. People want to buy them at the minute still, which I do think is risky. Obviously, watch my video yesterday in terms of why I don't do that. But when we're looking at the overall time frames and looking at the 3-day time frame, right, the total market cap, again, for me, there's been no entries for altcoins because we are below this level, and that's kind of predominantly the level that I look for on the 3-day time frame, because it works best in my opinion. But again, that's only what I think. As I said yesterday, if you're looking to buy altcoins, do it with profit only. Don't just be introducing capital because you think it's a good opportunity, because this market could continuously melt, and it hurts when people hear that and say that and stuff like that. But ultimately, we've got to play what we see. And right now, the dilution of altcoins, yeah, we're starting to see that kind of happening where coins really are correcting about 80-90% right now. Not all of them, obviously, but some of them are. Got to be careful. So for me, 1.218 trillion is probably going to be the very, very likely place if Bitcoin does lose a level of support. So just be careful of this level. It could get pretty interesting. So let's talk about BlockFi. We're talking about buying dips, but the one way to facilitate dips without worrying too much is obviously having profit and making your capital work for you, especially if you're utilizing stable currencies. Now, if you are in America, you unfortunately cannot use this anymore. However, if you are in Europe and UK, they have added more pairs. So you can see on the screen there, you've got Avalanche, you've got Polkadot, Solana in there. You've also got Atom and I think Filecoin as well, which is relatively good. But for me personally, what I like to do, I like to utilize a stable currency, but change the settings within, which is great. So when I change the settings, so if I say I have 50,000 Tether, I could set this to Polkadot, for example. You all know I love Polkadot, and I could get paid that in Polkadot. And the key is with this, and a little bit of alpha, is when the prices of crypto are low, you can do that and you can get more units for your buck, and then you can obviously accumulate. Not many systems do this, and this is why I like using BlockFi. So if I've got a little bit of money in there on a higher interest rate, which is ultimately on stable currencies, roughly around 10% right now, I can get paid in another asset. That's great, without worrying about the value appreciation or worrying about what the market is doing. So that makes sense. So link below, make sure you check it out. Let's talk finally, before I go into altcoins, is dominance, right? So I've mentioned this before quite a lot. I think we are going to go back up. I think these are going to be quite an aggressive move. We are potentially going to be looking at a bigger upside move, because maybe we may well get a Bitcoin pump at some point where it will correct and it will catch people out and altcoins will be like, oh my God, what do we do? There's always that kind of motion, but also the other side as well. Weakness in Bitcoin would indicate potential sell-offs in altcoins and leading them to go into stable coins, which will obviously dilute the altcoin market versus BTC, or actually put them into BTC if they understand the metrics of that as well. Now, with that, that could mean we actually go up eventually, right? I've been talking about this for a while. I think we are expected to probably go around 48 to 52%. Do I think we'll ever go up to like 70% again back in these old days? Probably unlikely, yeah. I'll be honest with you, very, very unlikely, but we just don't know. But for me, if we do a move up to this level, I think that will be a massive catalyst for the alt season that could be coming in the middle of the year if we get high. Because we always seem to get a lot of action. Obviously, it goes up, it comes down, right? When it goes down, is it ultimately alt season? When it goes up, it's obviously, bears are getting wrecked by holding your altcoins and the Satoshi values are decreasing massively, right? That is the metric that you need to worry about. Now, a lot of people say, well, we haven't really had an alt season. We have. We've had the monstrous move in the market, which has literally been a monumental drop of 33.83% in dominance, leading to a lot of altcoins shooting to the moon. And we all know which ones we're talking about. There's been loads of them, right? But at the end of the day, we've got to be careful with this metric, because if you are camping in altcoins and we do get that aggressive move up to the upside, because the dilution of altcoins and stuff like that versus BTC could get pretty minging, so just be careful. Let's look at some of these altcoins that have done very, very well. So the first one, in my opinion, let's have a little quick look at this one. I'll go through a few, not many. Avalanche, for obvious reasons, we are in a downtrend still, and this again has hit that 618 level. A lot of altcoins look like this, where we've actually went up, we've hit a 618 level, and we could be coming back down. Now, I know it's bearish, but we are still in a downtrend, and especially when you look at these time frames, it is pretty ominous. High, low, lower high, lower low, lower high. Are we going to get another lower low? Hopefully not. But if that does happen, I could indicate what I've just said previously. BTC hitting certain levels, total market cap hitting certain levels. We may well see a rise in the dominance if that happens too. So just be careful. Looking at the daily, people will be thinking, oh, look, we're in an uptrend. But realistically, though, we've got to look at those higher time frames as well. We could be just forming another high level of resistance here, and it could be getting pretty ugly. So we've got to be careful. There's not, in my opinion, there's not enough juice here to get us excited for a potential move to the upside. So if we're looking at the Fibonacci from this point here to this level, there's not enough gappage to kind of get you really excited, because realistically what we should have been doing is continuing going up, and we haven't broken structure. If you look left there, there's a lot of resistance structure. So maybe we will refuel and go a bit lower, then go for it again. But it all depends on Bitcoin. If Bitcoin doesn't play ball, we're going to lose it, and that could be a problem. So a lot of altcoins do look like that at the moment. Another one, BNB. Another example here. Now, this is a thing that I highlighted on Patreon as a potential opportunity, but again, it's showing signs of weakness where, if I remove all the jargon, you can see very, very clearly, bear with me, if we're looking at this overall structure here, make it look neater, we have hit this level, we've popped off, we've hit the level of resistance, and we came back down again. A lot of altcoins, as I say, have done that, and we still cannot get fully through that previous level of resistance from the past, which is not ideal, right? And obviously we've had a bit of a divergence, all kinds of stuff. Well, I wouldn't say more of a double top than anything on that one. Other ones to look at, Polkadot looks a bit worse for wear, this one at the moment, always has been, but the trend is your friend. I was selling some of mine into BTC around the 21st of January, just before this big old hefty dumpage, which was quite a good level to kind of to do it on in the BTC pair. But in the USD pair, I was actually selling it around end of November time, just to consolidate my position and to hopefully rebuy back lower. That money is still in my wallet exchange waiting to be used, so I'm still waiting for the perfect time to get in, especially when the trend is your friend and it's starting to look good. And it was looking quite good here, but it rejected, and we are still below the EMA. So until we get above that EMA and above, this one again, as I said in my previous video, there's nothing really for me to act on. And yeah, I'm just waiting. Fundamentals, great. Still love it. I want as many as I can. I'm getting quite greedy, and obviously I should be looking to kind of secure some baggage, but I'm not yet. I'm just waiting to see what happens with Bitcoin, because I will be annoyed if Bitcoin dumps and it goes down to like 15, 16, $17, whatever it may be, even though it's roughly 18 right now. Last one to look at would be Luna. I'm not going to go too deep on this one, because we have got an overall bit of structure, which is an obvious downtrend, which we do need to consider. But we had a bit of life for a little bit, like on the other ones. But again, we failed to get above that EMA. And, you know, I did the video where I literally called this entire topic, going, right, we're going to come down from this point, $100 psychological level, we're going to be melting. And we are now at $51. So it's just one of those things. You've got to kind of remember to take profit and ultimately consolidate your position. But if you start seeing these massive swing lows and it just keeps on staying in it, there's no point you even considering buying back in yet until that trend has changed. It's not going to fly up to like $100 in a matter of a day. So you're not going to just miss out on a gigapump like that, especially on an asset this big. So just don't worry about it. If you were selling up here, you were in a massive monstrous position for accumulation. And that is what you want. More units, which is amazing. But there we go. Okay. For me, altcoins, nothing to act on yet. Bitcoin, nothing to act on yet. Just be patient. Patience is key. So if you like my content, make sure you like it. Leave a subscription. And yeah, follow me on social media if you so wish to.